Hey friends, Destiny just got a new suite of content with some dungeon refreshes that added an easy difficulty option as well as a contest difficulty option. The bigger W though is the easy option that has some hints and assists in the dungeon to help people get their foot in the door of dungeon and raid content, which I think is overall healthy for the game and something that's needed for a very long time. It's only the first week of this event though, so we only have the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, and then Ghost of the Deep / Prophecy unlock in the next weeks. We only have access to the Spire of the Watcher loot though, which brings us to today's video. The first thing you want to do is go to the Right of the Nine vendor area and attune whatever weapon you want. This will make it so it's more likely to drop, I believe, in the dungeon, but at the very least from this chest that does require a currency to redeem, I believe 250 of them, but I'm waiting until we have Prophecy to turn mine in since I really just want the shotgun. Don't forget to pick up the quest from the emissary. The weapons you obtain from that chest can be multi-perk, shiny, and even Adept, with also multi-perks and shiny. First question is what weapons drop in this dungeon. It's an arc scout rifle, a stasis sidearm, a special grenade launcher, and an arc machine gun. There are 3 difficulty options, which I'm just going to call easy, medium, and hard because I don't want to boot up the game to double check. But remember how you can use that currency to open that chest? Each full completion, you will get a total of 330 or more of that currency. Oh, and it doesn't matter if you're playing the medium or the hard difficulty, still 330. You might be wondering then, well, what's the point of the hard mode? The point is, it typically drops Adept weapons, and those Adept weapons typically have 2 perks as long as it's not the opening encounter. Remember, as time passes, those other dungeons are going to unlock, which means that chest is going to have a bigger loot pool, which means it will be less likely to get what you want out of that chest, even if you attune. Another crucial important piece of information is that any of these revamped dungeon weapons in their respective dungeon can drop on any of the encounters. They are not encounter specific. So in general, as a rule of thumb, if you're just with a pickup group and want some loot, do the medium version, because you're working towards having currency faster. But if you want double perks from Adepts, just do the easiest / the fastest encounter in that respective dungeon, which brings us to the Spire of the Watcher guide. Don't worry, I will have a generic guide for the full dungeon on the hard difficulty featured in this video, but let's talk about the farm first. The farm is the Ascent encounter. That's the one after opening the dungeon. This is going to be a pretty standard farm. Grab that checkpoint on a different character, load it up, rejoin, complete it, rinse, repeat. If you want loadout specifics, machine gun to hit the nodes, Lord of Wolves to kill the final boss, damage sniper to kill the mini bosses on the way up. Maybe consider bolt charge, maybe a bit of healing for survivability. You're going to drop a well at the final boss, melt him with Lord of Wolves. Should be pretty painless and be about a 5.5 minute clear if you're gaming, and you can make it go even faster if you start to go eager edge and grapples, mountaintop, and whatnot. As you can see, the encounter itself only takes about 3 minutes, but it's the loading that adds an unnecessary extra 2.5 minutes, because you have to go through the entire artillery bunker. The Vex gain access to its... I don't listen to it, I had it muted for years. Also, for whatever reason you have a gamer squad on, you can just kill the next boss immediately to save yourself a load-in. I don't, however, recommend killing that final boss since it is a guaranteed 2-phase unless somebody magically comes up with a 1-phase strategy. I'm personally just going to do the reload since you would think Bungie would give you bonus loot for taking the extra effort to clear the entire dungeon instead of farming one easy encounter over and over again, but here we are. So if you did want to solo an encounter on the hardest difficulty to get an Adept, the opening does drop Adept loot, but it only has a single perk, not double perks. I recommend you follow this video by Duck that shows you a 4-minute solo farm, but I'm not personally going to do it because I think double perks increase the likelihood of not only getting me the perk combo I want, but also saving vault space by having multiple desirable perks on the same roll. I'm also going to mention what is the point of an Adept weapon if they added weapon mods that are effectively similar to Adept mods. Like for example, Adept range gives you plus 10 range, but now normal weapons have access to a mod that gives you 6 range and 6 stability at the same time, which is arguably better than just getting 10 range. I guess the only exception would be on a shotgun, but we're talking a difference of 4 range on a mod, and if you wanted more effective handling, you would just use quick access sling. So then I guess the real reason to use Adepts is if it's a weapon that requires Icarus grip to get the most. I ain't even gonna go down this rabbit hole. Adepts are not worth it. But don't quote me on that on the off chance that if they change the loot system in the future, maybe Adepts will transfer into that new system as a stronger rarity tier or something. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I'm speculating. But my point is, if you're farming for weapons, you might as well farm for Adepts since they most likely have double perks, and if that Adept doesn't have a double perk, what are you doing on the harder difficulty? Well, if you want the title and related cosmetics, I do believe you have to complete all of these dungeons on the hardest difficulty, so at least one clear. I'll hit you with a quick summary of how to do this on Ultimate Mode or whatever. If you did want to complete the entire Spire of the Watcher dungeon on the hardest difficulty ultimatum, these are the build/loadouts I recommend for the easiest completion. A Caress Bolt Charge Titan, a Well of Radiance Warlock, and the third player can be anything, just have the gear. Starting off, I use Eager Edge to get to the first rally flag, then a machine gun to shoot the nodes, Icebreaker to one-hit the Cyclopses, and then a damage sniper to end the boss that appears. I use Precision Instrument because it's just extra damage, no extra steps, but Bait and Switch is more optimal if you want to go through that process, or Elemental Honing. On a vanilla Arc Titan though, not really going to happen. Then next is a jumping puzzle. You can swap to Lion Rampant, doesn't matter if you lose all your abilities because of Nod Swap. You're just trying to drag your team to the next encounter while you get that extra chest in between. The next encounter is called Ascent. I switch Icebreaker for Lord of Wolves. I use my Praetor's Revenge on all the bosses in between. Final boss gets Lord of Wolf down. The next boss is the Harpy. For that, if you do want to one phase, you can do it with Queenbreaker, but it's really tight and might even be RNG. If you wanted to do it, immediately T crashes, damage starts, go about halfway up the walkway, put your Bolt Charge Barricade down, Well of Radiance down, and then just use all the Queenbreaker till it's done. Sleeper Simulant is a pretty comfortable 2-phase if you want to sit farther back and safe just in case you're losing some of those gold tokens for reviving. If survivability is an issue, you can look for an unrelenting weapon, a Chaos Reshaped weapon, a Heal Clip weapon, a Healing Auto Rifle, etc. And you don't necessarily have to play Bolt Charge Titan if survivability is an issue. You can play Prismatic, you can use the invisibility and whatnot, do whatever you have to do to get to damage, because honestly, the damage is the easiest part of these encounters. For the final boss, this is a trick I learned from Sneaky Beaver, video in the description if you want specifics, but just use 1000 voices on the final boss and it staggers it. And in case you need a backup damage sniper, I pulled a Dord from Collections, and it put in a lot of work considering I was using Queenbreaker for the bosses, and a Dord shoots through the, I believe, Hydra shields, those rotating shields around the bosses. Wait, I paired Imminence with Chaos Reshaped and then put all of the strand bonuses on the artifact, and that was very, very strong. I hope this suffices as a quick summary. I expect a lot of you to be expert players, and if you really want a new player-friendly guide, I'm sure there's one on YouTube out there. The final thing to mention in this video is the specific weapon rolls I recommend for both PvP and PvE. The first weapon to discuss is the Long Arm Scout Rifle, starting with the PvP perk. Lion Rampant / Lunafaction Boots and Radiant Dance Machines all give you a bonus to hipfire accuracy, so go hipfire grip so it's even more pinpoint. As for what other perk to pair with that PvP roll, I'm going with Keep Away because when I'm aimed down sights, you lose your radar, and if you see that Keep Away perk in the bottom left of your screen, it means no one is within 15 meters of you. As soon as you see that perk go away, you know that you should get ready to start dueling somebody close to you. So that's why I value that perk. Dragonfly could help with farming revives to take a bullet off the time to kill, but you could also argue that Precision Instrument is functionally doing something similar. You can get really cute with build crafting and try to work towards a 2-tap, but something like Sanguine Alchemy and an Empowering Rift, you don't even need Precision Instrument to 2-tap. So maybe you use Lumina, Blessing of the Sky to try to build towards a 2-tap. It can happen. It's not a complete throwaway perk. Also, just like Explosive Payload, Flinch is also not a complete throwaway perk. But all things considered, I think I just want even more accuracy on my gun with Keep Away, and maybe pair this with Last Word on any of the new hipfire boots. So then what other perk would I want? I would want Recycled Energy and Rolling Storm, so it's both a PvP gun and a PvE gun at the same time. Keep in mind that Gravity Well, whenever you reload the weapon, it gathers ammo. So since this is a scout rifle that loads in like 1 or 2 bullets at a time, it's a much faster reload, so you can therefore take more advantage of Recycled Energy and Gravity Well. This seems like the role that they're pushing you towards. So if you happen to get a PvE PvP roll, you can save a vault space. Otherwise, I don't even recommend keeping this for PvE. Next up is the Sidearm Liminal Vigil. Headstone and Kill Clip, or rather Headstone and a damage perk now that we have Desperate Measures, I think is the combination because you can really clutch up as a controller player. However, the Iron Banner P-Spawn Sidearm effectively does the same thing now. It's a slightly different archetype, but they have a very similar ease of use and time to kill when we're talking about damage boosters, so why wouldn't you just use the gun that has the better origin trait in Skulking Wolf? However, you might end up liking Liminal Vigil more, especially if you ditch Headstone and go tap the trigger. Tap the trigger can proc on every bullet if you repress the trigger every single time instead of using full auto. Makes for one of the easiest shooting sidearms in the entire game. Very easy to chain kills with, and you can use this with Mask of Bakris if you want to go the Desperado route and get some rolling 2-taps. Let's just see the time to kill. And then we need to apply Bakris to it. On tier 7 resilience, you get a 0.39 time to kill after a headshot Bakris marksman dodge. So it's cute, I guess. Moving on to the machine gun. Don't. It seems like jolting feedback jumps out at you as the perk to go for, but considering it also rolls on the seasonal SMG and that one shoots a lot faster and jolting feedback is not based on the magazine, it's going to take longer to proc this perk, therefore it's not good. If you do get Killing Tally with Demolitionist or Triple Tap, it can help you with the reloading part of this, so it is usable in that regard, but I think there are better arc machine guns that do more for your vault space. Like the seasonal one can get triple perks, the Crota one can get triple perks, so I just don't see the value of this machine gun in either game mode. The final weapon to talk about is Wilderflight. The obvious role to go for is Envious Arsenal with Bait and Switch, to use that as some sort of swap rotation for damage, where maybe you stick a boss with Witherhoard, go to Wilderflight, go to your rocket that also has Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch, and keep switching between Wilderflight and your rocket launcher. I believe it is the Void Trials rocket launcher, and maybe that matters on a future Master Raid where the Elemental Surge is Void, and this ends up doing more damage than Hazen's Vengeance. I have plugged in the numbers. We don't have a firing range yet, but it's only slightly better than Hazen, so it's really up to you if you want to take that vault space. And this is why I highlight multiple perks, by the way. It shows you what could potentially save vault space on these double perk weapons. And to me, it's having both disorienting grenades and spike grenades on the same weapon with Envious Arsenal, Bait and Switch so you can do your swap rotation, and then either Lead from Gold to work with Gravity Well so you have more blinders, or Withering Gaze so you can use it as some way to set up damage for your heavy weapon in solo content while still having access to a blinding grenade launcher. Then for your reloading perk, Slide Shot if you want more blinders, or Autoloading Holster if you find yourself jumping a lot, not sliding as much. So this is the weapon that is probably going to have 2 vault spaces used in my vault. As for the rest of them, unless I get a 5 out of 5 Liminal Vigil, I'm probably not touching these weapons. As far as the rest of the weapons that have yet to be released, I'm most excited for the shotgun and the submachine gun, and overall I am not even slightly disappointed with this event because we've needed new player-friendly content for a very long time, and I'm very happy to see it. Friends, I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.